22. Exposure. By Nathan Hine. Chapter 1. Jason Nash, a short, thin, blond man with glasses and a slight tan, stood inside the old relic of a bygone era. It is a place that was supposed to keep people safe in the event of a worst-case terrible situation. It is a bomb shelter in the basement of the remains of what used to be the home he shared with his wife and children. They are long gone now, and he is alone except for the hum coming from the fluorescent lights that had a strange familiarity to them. It was like hearing the voice of an old friend that he hadn't spoken to in a while. But when they finally did cross paths again, it was like no time had gone by at all. Along with the hum of the lights, he is feeling the touch of an ACU, or Army combat uniform, against his skin again, like it was the first time he wore the uniform. The way it wrapped around his body feels so normal and right to him despite the time they spent apart. He felt like they just belonged together, like it gave him some inner peace and comfort. The light overhead flickered for a second, removing and then recasting shadows against the concrete walls. Jason's eyes drifted to a full-length mirror, and he observed himself in the uniform and felt the weight of his past settle heavily on his shoulders, but he felt oddly at ease with it. For years, the uniform had been a symbol of pride, camaraderie, and purpose, but more recently, it had become a ghostly reminder of the sacrifices made and burdens carried. Jason sat down in a wooden chair that was nearby. It showed its age as it creaked while supporting the weight under his small frame. Sitting for a moment, he gathered his thoughts. His eyes wandered around the room, seeing how sterile it was, devoid of personal touches that might suggest any luxuries of comfort or any warmth of life that would house people in it. It echoed with a solitude that Jason understood all too well, much like the isolation he had felt during his darkest days after his time in service. The only sounds were the humming of the lights and the gentle tap of his fingers against the cold screen of a cell phone. This is his best weapon in his fight against the system that had held him down and tried to push him to suicide. The camera was set to the video recorder. Jason cleared his throat before he pressed the red record button on the screen, and he placed the phone down with the lens facing him. His mind raced through the heavy weight of his revelation. This wasn't just another video, but a declaration of war against a sinister project he had inadvertently overheard during his struggles with the VA system, and now he must unearth it and bring it out of the dark into the light. His voice filled the almost silent shelter. It was steady but laced with urgency. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Nash, a veteran of the U.S. Army. While seeking treatment from the VA system for my various issues I accumulated while serving my country, I came across a disturbing plan between the VA system and the U.S. government called Project 22-10. In this plan, instead of actually helping the veterans, they push us into a cycle of complacency and frustration in order to push us over the edge and have us commit suicide. Why is it that they do this? As he spoke, memories flooded through his mind. Visions of the teammates, his friends, his brothers that he had lost, the men who had relied on him, and the heavy burden of leadership that still clung to him like his shadow or his reflection. He had seen the battle on foreign land up close, but the war he faced now felt insidious, an unseen enemy lurking in the bureaucratic depths of Project 22-10. Jason's anger ignited as he delved deeper into the project's intentions. The idea that some would exploit the pain of the veterans, his pain, was an affront to everything he had fought for. He believed in the sanctity of life, especially for the ones that fought to preserve it. Yet here he was, preparing to document a conspiracy to snuff out the lives of the ones that did fight for it. The answer is really simple when we get right down to it. It is the same reason why a lot of people do things: money. These people in Project 22-10 are making a profit off of manipulating us, the veterans' pain and suffering. They are making a profit off of our deaths. It is my intention to expose these people and the whole Project 22-10 with this video and more like it. It was a bitter truth, but he felt determined to bring it to the light. He could almost envision the faceless suits who manipulated suffering through profit margins, fattening their wallets, while veterans fought their own battles in silence. His words and this video would not be forgotten. He would make sure they were heard. With all of the parts involved, I know the danger in outing these people, but they must be exposed. So, if I were to die or mysteriously disappear, let it be known that it is the people behind the project that are responsible. This is all I have to say for now. Wish me luck, whoever is watching this. Keep the fight going against these tyrants. Over and out. The words hung heavily in the air, their weight giving him pause. Jason's heart raced as he pressed the big red button on the screen to stop the video recorder, turned it off, and tucked the phone away in his pants pocket. He had to be prepared with just words, though. He stood, feeling the adrenaline pump through his veins. For years, he fought against enemies that were visible, but now he was preparing to fight ones cloaked in shadows. He picked up a combat knife, running his thumb along the side of the blade before sheathing it in its place on his tactical belt. Afterward, he picked up a handgun and secured it snugly in its holster in the belt also, with a sense of duty saturating his actions. The AR-15 rifle entered his grip next. It felt like an extension of himself as he cradled it in his arms. Each weapon was a reminder of the skills he had honed, the battles he had won, and the war that is yet to be fought. Duty before self, Jason stated to himself. With a final glance around the room, he shouldered a tactical backpack full of supplies, the bare necessities for the fight ahead. There was no turning back. He had edged too close to the truth that had to be exposed, no matter what the consequences. As he stepped out of the shelter and into the unknown, the resolute chill of determination coursed through him. The night swallowed him, and the faint sound of city life echoed from somewhere nearby. Jason prepared to confront the darkness, not just in himself, but for every veteran who had been silenced. For all those who slipped through the cracks and were lost to Project 22-10, they would not be forgotten. He would ensure that. The fight had only just begun. Chapter 2. The thick woods loomed around Jason, drifting shadows that offered him cover as he waded along the tree line bordering the parking lot of the VA, or Veterans Affairs, hospital. The air was crisp with an impending chill that seeped into Jason's bones. He had to expect evenings like this, waiting and watching in silence for his target to make themselves present. Tonight, his target was his therapist, Dr. Susan Merrick. She is a woman in whose office he had spent hours upon hours sitting and disclosing his deepest pain and regrets that the war had brought him. He did all this looking for help, but ended up finding out that the whole therapy thing was nothing more than a front for her and the others in Project 22-10 to make money off of him and other veterans like him. This thought made him give out a quiet grunt of irritation. He knew she was here because her expensive car, one that she paid for off of the lives of veterans, sat in the parking lot waiting for her to return to it like she would every day after work. He knew she would be out soon enough as the end of the workday was closing in fast. As he stood in the dark peering out cautiously, his eyes drifting between the building's doors and her car, another vehicle approached the parking lot. It was a dark SUV that cast an ominous pallor under the parking lot streetlights. The SUV parked in a spot that Jason felt was a distance that was too close to him for comfort. Jason instinctively ducked further beneath the branches of a tree, narrowing his eyes on a man as he stepped out of the SUV. He was a bald, thin man with a beard, and tattoos were inked up his neck. He looked predatory as he approached Susan's car. This stranger sauntered over to her car and inspected the license plate, lingering his eyes on it as he matched it with the writing on a scrap of paper he had in his right hand. Jason felt a sense of dread creep into him as he watched this man with curiosity, and irritation coursed through his veins. He was curious as to what the man was doing and irritated because if this man was after Susan also, it would make his mission even more difficult. What does this man want with her? Jason thought as he remained rooted in place, just like the trees around him that were giving him cover from people unaware of his presence. The man finished matching the license plate to what was written on the paper and nodded his head in confirmation he had the right vehicle. Then the man walked back to the SUV, got back into it, and waited. Jason noticed there was another man with him in the passenger seat. This man was also bald, but he was lacking a beard or tattoos. A few minutes later, Susan, a woman in her mid-30s with curly chestnut-colored hair and brown eyes that were enhanced behind her black-rimmed glasses, emerged from the hospital. Jason watched her as she navigated the parking lot toward her car. The time standing in the woods waiting was getting to Jason as he shifted the weight on his feet, which made him move more than intended. His slight movement seemed to grab Susan's attention. She stopped walking to her car to glance at the wood line near where Jason stood. Jason held his breath and forced himself to remain perfectly still, all while hoping she hadn't seen him. Keep walking. There is nothing to see over here. Just the dark and us wilderness creatures. All I am is a nice little squirrel. Yeah, a squirrel that stands over 5 feet tall, that's all. Nothing out of the ordinary, Jason thought to himself. After a minute of her staring toward the wood line, she continued her walk, and Jason resumed breathing normally again, relieved he wasn't caught. He kept an eye on the SUV with the men in it while he monitored Susan walking across the parking lot. Then, a noise came out of nowhere. It was faint at first, but slowly increased in volume until Jason could hear it. It was the sound of footsteps. Jason watched as Susan stopped again, tilting her head to listen. The footsteps halted too, as if playing a game. Jason's pulse quickened. He glanced at the SUV. One of the men was fiddling with something inside. A speaker, maybe? This wasn't right. Susan started walking to her car again, and the sound of the footsteps started again. Susan picked up her pace. The footsteps resumed, louder now, mimicking her movements with unnerving precision. She broke into a jog trying to escape whatever was making the footsteps. The footsteps grew faster, closing in virtually, though no one was visible. Susan sprinted the last few yards to her car, fumbling with the door handle. She yanked it open, threw herself inside, and slammed it shut. After locking the doors, she started the car. The engine roared to life, and she took one more look around the area and saw no one. She breathed a breath of relief while convincing herself that everything that just happened was a figment of her imagination. She turned on the headlights and drove out of the parking lot. The SUV started up, and Jason could hear the men inside as they left the parking lot, following Susan. He could hear their laughter erupt. It was harsh, mocking bursts that cut through the night. The two men high-fived each other, one slapping the dashboard. "Did you see her face?" one said, his voice carrying through the cracked window. "That footstep track we played was gold. Scared the hell out of her." Jason's blood ran cold. It was a prank. A cruel, senseless one. He watched as the men drove off, still chuckling, their headlights fading into the darkness. He acted quickly, sprinting out of the wood line to his vehicle, which sat near the end of the parking lot where he was in the wood line. He started it up, threw it into drive, and tore out of the parking lot after the men that were after Susan.